This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Rock, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
How does this happen?
Ooh, what up? No, Bobby went black screen, and this is Tuesday. This is Knockouts and 3 Counts, and I almost had to kick the shit out of a garden gnome today. It has been a hell of a Tuesday, so we got a lot to talk about. How you doing, Mr. Nash? It's been a hot minute, brother, man.
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk about some fighting. Excited to talk about my fight. Just happy to be on, dude.
Fuck yeah,
Happy
dude.
to hear
I'm
about
happy to
the
be
fight,
seeing you
man.
get back in the cage, dude.
Dude, I'm ready.
Hell
Dude.
yeah.
I'm in the. Listen, dude. I'm gonna tell you. I'm in the best shape of my life right now. I really am. Like I'm mentally and physically, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm 33 years old, and I have this 3-year window where I am going to be able to compete at the highest level I've ever competed at. So I'm very excited to be, fighting at Bellator 297 here in about 3.5 weeks.
Well, you really are at the pinnacle of both like athletic peak and skill peak with the stuff that you've been able to learn. And, I'm sure a man like you, talking about the shape that you're in, you've been putting that work in the gym, in between the fights. So, I'm sure you've got a lot of new stuff to put on display come Bellator.
Absolutely. A lot of new stuff. And that's what I'm most excited about, because there's a lot of film on me, and people are watching and say, oh, expect this. But it's going to be a lot of stuff that he's not expecting, a lot of stuff people haven't seen. And that's what I'm most excited about, is going in there and mixing it up and doing some things that people have never seen. Something about me is I'm continually evolving. I'm a martial artist that always wants to learn and become better. I never want to go in the cage the same fighter. So you're going to see a lot of cool, interesting, like different stuff. Kara, Darren, Ariel, Chris Down, all of them are putting a ton of time in on me, and it's going to show dividends come June 16th.
And
that's something I wanted to.
Like? Oh, sorry,
Go ahead,
but what's it feel like to finally have the pen to paper, essentially, when you're looking back? I don't know what it was now, 6 months, 8 months ago or whatever, but you got MMA Junkie and stuff writing articles saying, one of the top free agents available right now, Bobby Nash. And then, you kind of have to nurse the injury, get back, and then you finally get pen to paper. What's that feeling like? Take me through that time period of like, oh, hey, I have a huge media outlet writing articles about me, and then to, transition to where we are now.
No, it's exciting. I mean, I was on a 4-fight win streak, all first-round finishes against very high-level, top-tier opponents. And, I knew that right around this time, I always told people, 32 to 36, this is when I'm going to be my best. I took my first pro fight at 24. I was green. I was, I was a heavy wrestler. But, I've been putting a lot of time in on my hands. I've been putting a lot of time, in my jiu-jitsu game and just becoming an overall martial artist. So right at this moment, I am, I can confidently say that I'm the best I've ever been, and I'm only going to get better. And for the past year, I've been just putting a lot of time on my strength and conditioning. That's why I tell you, I think I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. I'm very strong. Never in my life have I put so much emphasis on strength and conditioning and just getting in good shape, mobility. And I have a lot to thank with Chris Down at Phoenix Athletics. He's helped me out a lot. And he's getting my body in top tier shape. And Darren Cruikshank, Ariel, and Kara are making sure that I am so fundamentally sound. They're putting a lot of time in on me, and they're making sure my skills are A1. And then Chris down there is just, getting a chisel and just chiseling me up, man.
Chris Down seems to be the name that I hear all over. Kenny was talking about working with him. You're working with him. I know Parisian works with him. Most of the Scorpion Fighting Systems guys are working with him. And I've seen a lot of the things that you've changed in between your fights. So before we talk about coming to Bellator and why Bellator was the right pick, man. I mean, in between your run with the UFC, I mean, you're on a 4-fight win streak. You had finishes in all of those fights. Tell me about your run after the UFC, and how do you think that that's made you a better fighter headed into your Bellator debut?
Absolutely. So, you know, after my run in the UFC, I took an entire year and a half off. I did not get it. Almost 2 years actually. But what people don't understand, in that year and a half, 2 years, what I did is I reached out to Darren Cruikshank. I reached out to Kara Rowe. I reached out to him and like, hey, you know, there's a lot of skills I'm missing. You know, I'm a very good grappler. I'm a good wrestler, you know, but I just so happens I like to fucking fight, dude. I like to bang. So because of that, you two seem like the ones I need to get a hold of to get my hands proper, to get my striking proper. So I reach out to them, and for a year and a half and 2 years, I did nothing but train. So people don't know that. I was silent about it. I trained. And after my UFC, I got cut from the UFC, I took a guy who was 17-9, the number one prospect in the Midwest. And a lot of people are like, whoa, pump the brakes. Do we want to take, you're on a 3-fight losing streak. Why are you going to take a guy you're 8-4? Why are you going to take a guy at 17-9? Because I just knew. That's why. And I went out there and I knocked him out round 1. You know, so, you know, I think it was just a level of maturity that I gained. And it was a level of maturity. You know, at that time I had a kid. I had a baby, so that just made me grow up and just realize things. You know, like when I was in the UFC, I was only pro for 2.5 years, guys. I was pro I went to the UFC very fast in my career, and which was awesome, you know, and I love it. But I was a little underdeveloped, and mentally, I was just, my mindset wasn't where it is today, you know. So, you know, all those fights I had in the UFC that I lost, it was a blessing. It was a blessing because I learned from it, and now I'm just gonna learn from it, and I'm gonna be the best I've ever been in my entire life.
Personally,
I like it,
I think
because
it's kind of a quick cut, to be honest. It's kind of bullshit. We see a lot of guys lose more than 3 fights in the UFC these days and not get cut. So I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're in Bellator. It's kind of like it's brand new, right? Like you said, you almost had 2 years off. So here we are again, brand new. This is the pinnacle of your life and your MMA career, like you said, at 33. It's like a new start, man. It's got to be exciting.
Oh, very exciting. And I'm very happy with the contract I received. I'm happy with Bellator. They seem to really be taking care of me. My manager is the man. Everyone that's a part right now is the best. I have the best management team. I have the best coaches. I have, you know, the best team surrounding me. And because of that, at this moment, if I'm going to win a world title, it's now with the coaching staff I have, with the team I have, you know. So, and like I said, Bellator I'm fine if this is where I am for the rest of my career, you know. So I'm happy with it.
Well, with that being said, and you being so happy to get into Bellator, tell me what your thoughts are as a fighter who's new to the promotion. You know, you hear all these things about Bellator with the moving from Showtime and all that stuff and all the stuff with PFL. I mean, what are your thoughts on the state of Bellator as a guy who's coming into the promotion?
So, I can say from my experience, you know, I got offered this contract in October, and I was still nursing an injury. And I remember being like, whoa. I'm not, because, you know, when you get a fight in the UFC, it's like, okay, you ready in 2 weeks? Right? That's kind of how it is. And with them, it's like, no, that's cool. Take all the time you need. Stay focused. Where I'm like, oh, wow, I've never had this before. And I was like really taken back by it. And then they gave me a number that I was like, well, I don't think the UFC is going to beat that. You know, so, you know, with them giving me the time I needed to fully recover and give me money that I was, you know, satisfied with, I was like, dude, I absolutely will go to Bellator, man. So I'm happy with it. I mean, I think it's promising. They have a lot of good fighters, and their welterweight division is really tough. But I think I match up really well with the welterweights out there.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
another question I wanted to ask you headed into this Bellator fight, you mentioned how you had gotten real comfortable with your hands. Obviously, you were getting a lot of knockouts. Shout out to Kara Rowe, who's also a past guest of the show, along with Darren Cruikshank. But with that being said, you got comfortable with your hands. Anyone that knows anything about you, knows anything about your career, knows about your wrestling pedigree at Michigan State. As you transition into Bellator here, is that something that you plan to make sure that we see more of, where you're mixing your wrestling back in so that it opens your striking up more? Or do you feel like you've just got the wrestling as an ace in the back pocket?
So I am a mixed martial artist. I will do whatever I need to do to win the fight. You know, it just so happens I've been using my hands. If you look at early in my career, I was wrestling a lot. And it's just that doesn't mean like, oh, I'm just gun-ho on the striking and all that. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to win the fight. You know, if that means grapple, if that means get a little nasty and dirty with it and hit single legs and double legs and snap downs, or if that means I got to go out there and bang and get a knockout, that's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm not just going to be like, I'm going out there and trying to knock this guy out. Obviously, I'm trying to finish this guy, but I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get the win, whether that's wrestling, grappling, jiu-jitsu. I'm putting a lot of time in all of the disciplines right now. And, you know, whatever, you know, it just so happens these last couple fights I've showed off some of the striking, but, you know, I do have a Division I Big Ten wrestling pedigree, and it's damn good. I'm a damn good wrestler. I still got it. I just haven't had to use it. That doesn't mean I won't use it in this fight. That doesn't mean I won't use it in the future. I'm going to use whatever I got to do to win this fight.
Yeah, that's the people that are most successful in MMA is the people that are able to find out what their opponent's weakness is and really exploit that. You know,
Absolutely.
use their strengths to, you know, push themselves through essentially.
I just would like to throw out for the record, being that I've trained with Bobby before, I can vouch for you that him getting on top of you is not a fun day at the office. So I'm throwing that out there. But speaking of wrestling and speaking of all those things, let's talk about your opponent at Bellator 297. You're facing Kyle Crutchmer, which his first name's pretty cool if I do say so myself, but I obviously am going to be going the opposite way in this one. So tell me about this matchup. How do you feel about it? How do you feel like you guys match up, and how do you see this fight going?
So Kyle Crutchmer, man, you know, he's a very tough guy. He's 9-2 right now. At one point, he was ranked top 8 in Bellator. So they were pressing him really heavy. He was having a lot of success. He's 5-2. And, you know, he's a 2-time All-American wrestler out of Oklahoma State. So that right there tells me this guy is a disciplined dude. He's a hard worker and he's an athlete. You don't get two All-American. You're not a 2-time All-American wrestler from Oklahoma State if you're not an athlete. So that being said, I have a lot of respect for him. I know he's going to come game. I know he's going to be tough. And the only thing I hope I have the absolute best Kyle Crutchmer June 16th. I hope he's the best he's ever been when he steps foot in that cage. But I know without a doubt I have all the tools to beat him. Yes, he's a good wrestler, but let's remember, I wrestled in the Big Ten at Michigan State University. Big Ten is the toughest conference in the country. It's Big Ten versus Big 12. You know, he's a good wrestler. I can wrestle too. But what separates us is I feel like I'm the more I'm the better martial artist, all around martial artist. And, you know, I'm not scared to go wrestle with him. I'm not scared to strike with him. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to win this fight. And I'm very confident. That being said, attributes. I look at attributes, you know, this man is 5'9". I'm 6 foot. He has 68-inch reach. I have a 74-inch reach. His last fight, he lost to a guy who wasn't a wrestler, but he maintained distance very well and threw a lot of jabs. I know how to beat a guy like Kyle Crutchmer. Is it going to be challenging? Is it going to be tough? Absolutely. And I'm giving this man a ton of respect. But the thing is, I'm giving him respect because I know he's tough, and knowing that he's tough is going to make me get in the gym and bust my ass. Mm-hmm. So, you know, good opponent, but I have all the tools in the world to beat him.
Yeah, you talk about people at the top end of the you hear people at the top end of the game all the time talking about motivation going into camp. Yeah, and that's good that you were able to find your motivation and stuff. one thing that I figure would also be motivation going into this is the fact that they are kind of, to your point, he was formerly high-ranked Bellator, fighter. They're kind of throwing you in the deep end, kind of, sink or swim type of moment. That's got to add some added motivation as well.
So this is the way I look at that. People are like, "Oh wow, 5-2 in Bellator. He was ranked top 10 before." You want to know what I say? Sounds like they're doing some damn good matchmaking. They know. They're not stupid. They're not. I think it's good matchmaking. We got two high-level wrestlers that are going to go out there and bang it out. I don't look at it as like, oh man, they're feeding me to the woods. I think, sounds like they're matching it proper.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it. There's gonna be a new welterweight at Bellator, man. I'm gonna make noise, and I'm gonna put them on notice real quick because I plan on finishing them. Like I said, all the respect in the world to them, but I'm coming there to finish them flat out.
Yeah,
fuck around and find out is what the man said, man. Fuck around and find out. That's what.
I don't want to jump ahead. I don't want to jump ahead and pass your opponent out. You don't like to look ahead of your opponents and all that, but there are guys in the welterweight division that are very, very known, like Douglas Lima, Michael Page. Are there guys out there after this fight that you're actually looking into taking on? Is there somebody you're looking forward to facing?
Man, I tell you what, it's hard to, I have a tough opponent ahead of me, but, if there was a guy I would like, it'd be like a guy like Logan Storley. I think he's very similar to Kyle Crutchmer. I think I just stylistically match up with guys like that.
That's interesting because we just had his teammate, Mitch McKee, on the show.
Nice.
That's interesting.
So
I like that
matchup.
So, Scott Coker, if you're listening to this shit, send me some credentials. But with that being said, I want to talk about. There's another thing I wanted to talk with you about. Seeing you going into Bellator, we've already had guys like Miles who already went through UFC and Bellator and all those things. How do you feel about Michigan MMA getting to a spot where it really feels like we're finally starting to show up and show out? When you think of past guests of our show, like Mondo Gutierrez, who's going to be on The Ultimate Fighter here. You got Kenny, who just fought in Bellator. You've got the light heavyweight champion, Jamal Hill. You've got the ONE FC champion in Jared Brooks. I mean, Michigan is really starting to stake its claim, maybe not to being a hotbed of the likes of like somewhere like Florida, but definitely to a spot where people got to give respect to Michigan MMA. What do you think of the rise we've seen of so many good cats coming out of here in the Mitten?
I'll say it right now. Michigan MMA, baby. It's the best. Michigan MMA is the best. Everybody wants to talk about Florida and California. Are they good? Absolutely. But I'm going to tell you what, we got world champs coming out of this state. We got world champs coming out of Detroit. We got world champs coming out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And guess what? I plan on, making big noise and trying to go for a world title. So, Michigan MMA is hot and it is a high level. We got SFS, we got Mercy Lago, we got Michigan Top Team, we got MASH. I'm not trying to
Warrior Way with Austin.
The thing is, the gyms are high level, the coaches are high level, the training is high level, and it's only getting better. So I'm extremely proud to be coming from Michigan, representing Michigan, and being one of the guys who, for the future generation of Michigan MMA, I can leave a platform, or I can basically I'm just really happy with Michigan MMA, and I think it's one of the best states in the country right now.
Well, something you touched on with the Michigan MMA part, I am going to be back behind the microphone on June 24th for one hell of a fight that they just booked with Lights Out. I mean, what do you think about all this talent that we're getting, the guys that are coming from out of state to have to be fighting here? Because, man, did they just announce one hell of a matchup for Lights Out. Austin Bashi and why am I drawing a blank on homie's name now? I just was talking about
Ricky Bandejas.
There you go, Ricky Bandejas. This guy is a monster. When we talk about what he did in Bellator, he took out McGregor's boy out there in Ireland. I mean, he's fought a who's who of people. I mean, with matchups like that, you can't. It's hard to argue that we don't have some of the best MMA here. What are your thoughts on that fight? Because I feel like that's going to be one of the best fights you're going to see that's not in a UFC or Bellator cage.
Absolutely. And first off, I got to throw it out there. Man, talk about Austin Bashi. Talk about a kid, 21 years old, doesn't shy away from competition. and stays busy. That is a busy man. He's 21. He's 9-0. And it's funny, the last 3 fights he's had, I'm like, oh, nice. This is going to be Austin's toughest fight. And he fights again. I'm like, oh, nice. This is going to be Austin's toughest fight. And guess what? I'm saying it again. This is going to be Austin's toughest fight. He doesn't shy away from competition. And if you look at this guy, you know, he's fought Sergio Pettis, who's the world champ right now in Bellator. He's fought multiple top 5 guys in Bellator, top 5, top 10 guys. You know, he's very talented, very tough. And, you know, Austin's going to have himself a very tough opponent. And I'm super excited for him. This is going to, in my opinion, really show us who Austin Bashi is and what he's about. So I'm super excited. I mean, shout out to Matt Frendo. Shout out to Lights Out for putting on such a high-level fight. You know, I appreciate it. As a fight fan, I appreciate it. As an Austin Bashi fan, you know, dude, shout out to Bashi for just being a dog, bro. You know, I just love it.
Straight killer, dude.
I mean, that's, you know, 21 years old, 9-0, and everybody sometimes, you know, he's taking a step up in competition. I believe he is ready.
And what, we're talking a 3-month turnaround once the fight ends up taking place, something like that? I mean,
kid stays busy.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that's what we were talking about before we went live on the air. Because when you think about exactly what you just said, with him being only 21, he's already 9-0, and he's been fighting since he was 13. By the time he hits 30, and like you were saying, 35, when he gets, you know, his full man strength and all that, and is in his physical prime. I mean, dude, if he's doing what he's doing now, and then he keeps going, there's no way that kid doesn't end up in the UFC. And I feel like he could go in there right now and cause a lot of problems.
World champ, bro. World champ. I know that kid wants to be a world champ. You know, and that's what I love about it. It's like, you know, at 21, dude, mentally you're not there. This kid's 21. He's a good-looking kid. You know, he's getting some fame, and, you know, women probably want to talk to him. You know, he can go out and party and drink, but those are not distractions. Distractions I had at 21, Austin Bashi does not have. And that, and you know, at 25, 26, 27, I recover better. I'm stronger than I am at 33, but 33, I'm mentally there. Austin Bashi mentally is there right now. That's rare for a 21-year-old. When you're 21, you're a fucking savage, dude. You can train. You can just do it over and over and over, but you're just not mentally there. This kid mentally has it, and I'm just proud to call him a friend, dude. I'm a fan of Austin, dude. I'm a fan of his.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan as well. And we had spoke to it a little bit before we went live. Just speaking to the kid, man, he's so humble. You can tell, like, he really appreciates the fact that, you know, like, even when we had him on the show and stuff, he doesn't love doing interviews, but even when, like, he just really genuinely appreciates the fact that he has people supporting him. And it really does mean a lot to him to, like, watch the growth. And to your point, man, when somebody's that young and able to put together the mental game like he does and have the training behind him already from a young age to where he is now, I mean, he really may end up being unstoppable if he keeps that same mental attitude of just being humble and, you know, the same drive, dude. Like, he really does have that ambition.
Good people.
Future world champ, man. Future world champ right there.
Hell yeah, man. I can't wait to be back behind the mic for that one. Make sure you check that out. But, dude, that brings up as good a question as any, man. You know, we're seeing you make your way back to Bellator. We're talking about a lot of the things that are going on. I know you're an MMA fan just like us, so I got to get your thoughts on some things. Yep. First of all, and one of the biggest ones people have been talking about, you got to tell me, what do you think about this Francis Ngannou deal?
Dude, I love him, dude. I love Francis Ngannou. Okay? You know, Dana White wants to go over here and talk bad about him and everything, say, you know, he's scared to fight John Jones. He's not scared to fight. He's fought Cyril Gane. He's fought Stipe Miocic. He's a badass dude. He's a fighter. He's not scared. The reason Dana's
saying, he was trying to make money.
Well, Dana has to say that because it's like, because Dana, he's like, oh, this contract doesn't. I mean, he has to say that to take the publicity off him, you know. But at the end of the day, if you're going to get a better contract, well, why wouldn't you do it? That's like, okay, you all have a job. Okay, if someone said, hey, no, we're going to offer you $20,000 more to do this job somewhere else, are you guys going to take it?
Yeah.
And guess what? You got to work less days a week. Of course, we're going to take it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, so, I mean, what he's doing, and not only that, he's like, you know what? And the guys I fight are going to make $2 million. What?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Like, he's just advocating for the fighter. And I just like to see, and I always said, if we want something to change in the UFC, it can't be Joe Blow trying to say, oh, we need this. It needs to be a world champion. It needs to be a world champion to stand up. Francis stood up and did something about it. And for that, I honor him for it. I think that's wonderful. If Conor McGregor could do something like that, you know, it can make some changes and make some waves and, you know, get these guys paid and have more negotiating leverage. And, you know, there's no leverage with these guys. They're at the will of, you know, Dana White and the UFC. And I love the UFC. I love the fighting. I think they're a great business. So no disrespect to them at that. But it's just, I just like leverage. I like leverage for the fighter. And I don't think they have leverage right now. You know, I want to see him, you know, do well. So because of what Francis is doing, I absolutely love him for it. I really do.
Yeah, it's hard to not appreciate what he basically laid on the line with the fact that, like you were saying earlier, your athletic prime isn't always at, if I'm not mistaken, what is he, 37 or something, 38 even? So, and well, for the fact of him, I'm not saying necessarily in a bad way, I'm saying for him to take that step while he's already at the later stages of his career, but he's now at the spot where he has the highest earning potential coming off of now finally obtaining the belt. It's like, for him to take that step, you can't do nothing but commend it. But in the same sense, do you feel as though there's any truth to what Dana was saying with the overpaying, or maybe the fact of like PFL signing him, but then he's still waiting for boxing to come up, and then we may not see him till this time next year for the PFL banner?
See, I don't know. See, here's the thing, and I want to see Francis fight. There's no question about it. Let's go get this man a fight. I want to see him fight. He's exciting. But Francis is going to do what is best for him. And
absolutely,
I can't blame the guy for wanting to make some money, man. He comes from Africa. He came from nothing. You know, the man wants to set his life up, and I can't blame him for that. You know, I'd want to do the same thing if I had the opportunity to make millions in fighting and do this and do that. You best believe I'm going to do it too. You know, so.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you think now that they're doing that, and you know that it's a guaranteed thing where if you come in there to fight Francis, you're going to get a guaranteed $2 million. How do you think that plays out when you start to see some more of these big stars from the UFC come up in free agency? Because $2 million is more than anybody in there is making, unless you're like John Jones or something like that. Right. So my whole thought process on that whole thing is I feel like, and to use a wrestling reference, it's kind of the first thing that kind of popped to my head. It's kind of like when WCW created the NWO, right? Because they had everybody jumping ship and all that stuff. The same way PFL's now got this stuff with Ngannou, and you've got the thing where, you know, if you go to PFL and fight Francis, even if you lose, you're getting $2 million, which is more than you were going to get as a top contender in the UFC. Well, so my thought process is he's definitely going to get people over there.
Right. If you fight and make $2 million, you made it in the MMA game. You made it. You can literally stop fighting at that. You made it. You made it in the game. So, I mean,
do you think they'll have a hard time finding him opponents, though? Because they said that he's going to be in like the super fight division. So I don't even know if that's necessarily all the heavyweights. And I know they said he's not going to be in the tournament unless he wants to. Do you think they have a hard time finding him matchups?
I don't know. And that's yes and no, because I mean, I don't know who in their right mind would turn that down. But yeah, he's a big scary motherfucker, but it's like, hey, let's fight.
I'll take the risk for that.
They're gonna be picking free agents, man, out of there. You know what I mean? I honestly, I wouldn't even be upset if they offered like Fedor a couple million to come in there and have a super fight with him, because
but you
ultimately that would be eyes on all of it right there.
What I would love is, the only thing that I'm really worried about is, so we have Francis Ngannou, and we're gonna go and be like, hey, you're gonna fight Francis, you're gonna make $2 million. So this guy might be like, shit, I'm about to go out here and make $2 million. Is he going in there for like, hey, I want to win, or is he going in there like, hey, I want to be the best
for the paycheck?
Right.
You know, I want to be the best in the world. I want to beat Francis Ngannou and be the best heavyweight in the world and create my legacy. And that's where I'm nervous. Is like, are they going to be able to? Because if someone offered me $2 million, I'd be like, hell yeah, I made it. Like, to me, I made it. Yeah. I still have a competitive drive, but I wonder if it's just tough,
And not only to that degree, but like what do you end up seeing with opponents? Because the free agency pool, especially at heavyweight, isn't necessarily the deepest. And ultimately, with the way that UFC kind of has their guys contracted and stuff, it seems like whenever they're coming off a win, they push them back into another 6, 7, 8 fight deal. Yeah. So I don't know if we're going to see somebody necessarily at top 10, top 5 UFC talent, at least coming off a win, taking them on. And then I feel like the pool just isn't as deep at heavyweight. That's the biggest thing. I'm a huge PFL fan, and I said that I think Thursday when we had originally talked about it. It really hurts me to be negative about this deal because I'm a Francis Ngannou fan. I watch PFL, everything they do, and it's just like, is it too much of an investment for a company that's still in the growth phase? That's what I really work.
I get I totally understand what you're saying, and so where was I gonna go with that? I was gonna go somewhere with that, but I can't.
I had brought up potential opponents, and I'm like, the only person that's realistic that I can think of that is a free agent, and he's fighting for BKFC is like Ben Rothwell. And it's like that's not a solid enough B-side to sell massive pay-per-views. You know what I mean? And I love Ben Rothwell, not shitting on him, but that's what you're seeing at that's what you're seeing at the free agency in heavyweight. Totally. Is he going to take on I've seen people talk about Verdum and stuff, and it's like we're going to see retired Verdum coming back, and I know he's looking jacked lately and stuff, but it's like it worries.
Verdum's old too, man.
Yeah,
well, Kyle mentioned last Thursday. What happens if somebody sleeps him, dude? What happens if he goes in there and gets beat? Then what's that do for your investment?
Now you paid him that big ass deal, and now he's already made his fucking money, and now the hype train's all killed. Because here's that nobody's talking about. This is the only thing that really scares me for PFL. Number one, the amount of money is the obvious one, but here's the one that nobody's talking about. You already just said, Corey, that they aren't going to be able to get him in a cage until 2024. Here's what I'm worried about. He's gung-ho and adamant that he wants a boxing match. What if he goes in there and fights in that boxing match and gets knocked the fuck out before he ever makes it into the PFL cage? Now you've already signed him to a deal where he's getting a guaranteed $3 million a fight. Whoever fights him is going to get $2 million. And if he gets slept or some kind of bullshit or doesn't look good in that boxing fight, you might have just fucked your whole investment, and now it's already signed. So,
no, you want to know something? Okay, so I know where I was going to go with that. So the heavyweight division has always been kind of a lighter division. It's always been like the 55ers, 70s, 185 hunters. Because let's just be real. If you're 265 pounds and you're 6'5", you're not fucking fighting, dude. You're playing basketball. You're playing football. Yeah. So we're not getting the best athletes in MMA. We're literally not getting the best athletes. If you're that big, you're gonna make money in football and basketball. So the fact that now these PFLs paying these heavyweights millions of dollars, maybe we'll see a shift. Maybe that 6'4", 250-pound man will be like, "Hey, I'll do MMA." Maybe we'll get LeBron James. What at 18 he decided he wanted to do? That man 6'5", 240. What if he decided he wanted to do MMA? But no, he's gonna play basketball. So maybe these verses, maybe it opens the way for a better athlete in 5 to 10 years.
Possible.
I hope that it has. I hope it has a open. I hope it has an open look just on MMA as a whole, because even though we're talking about PFL right now, if this has a good ripple down effect, it could help money for everybody in MMA. So all in all, the deal itself, I don't think is a bad thing. It's just a matter of if it's going to work for PFL in the long run, which until we have a few fights in, you're not really going to be able to know a whole lot about that. But But before we get out of the PFL thing and we jump over to some of these fights coming up, I know you got to go to one of those Jake Paul fights, bro. You got to tell me what's your thoughts on Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz.
Dude, I don't know, man. It's tough. I'm a huge Diaz fan, dude. I love him. But, I mean, the man is taking these fighting him all at the right time. I mean, Jake can actually box. I think we can all agree that he can box, and, something about Nate Diaz is he does get hit. He does take punishment.
A lot.
I don't know, man. I want to say I want Nate Diaz to win so bad, but
I'm scared he's going to get caught. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm scared because the one thing I'll give Jake is that Jake hits hard. And the only thing that scares me is, like you just said, Nate is very hittable. And if Nate can't take you,
he willingly takes a hit, dude.
That's my point. And
he's got a good game.
In this one, he can't use his jiu-jitsu. He can't wrestle you along the cage. If he gets dropped, he can't tie you up with the jiu-jitsu. That's why I say my worry is if he gets caught in this fight, we're going to have Tyron Woodley part 2.
One thing, though, you can say, though, looking back at his MMA game, is he does roll with punches very well. And that's one thing I think once you put them pillows on, I think that could definitely help him once he's able to. I joke about it. I know you see.
The thing about Diaz, too. The thing about Diaz, he can box, but he has no power. He's not knocking no one out, dude. That's the thing.
Very true.
He can box, but he ain't got that touch of death to him.
Yeah, it's
true.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be interesting to see how that shit plays out, though, because the only thing for me with this one is, now that Jake's lost, it'll be interesting to see what the hype for this thing with Nate looks like, because it was different when he hadn't lost yet. But I gotta ask you this. Though. So these fights, I know you're going to be looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing them, and I say the winner fights Masvidal, and they become the undisputed BMF champ. What do you think about Poirier and Gaethje for the now vacant BMF belt?
Badass, dude. What a fucking great fight.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Gaethje fan, and I'm a huge Poirier fan. I'm not going to elaborate it. I'm just going to go with Dustin Poirier decision.
Wow, you think it goes the whole way?
You think these two can make it 5 rounds without one getting?
I think you guys are surprised.
Wow.
Y'all boys better be ready to get
war. What a war that's going to be. 5 whole rounds.
It's going to be a war.
Oh,
I would be.
Hey, you know what?
Tell me.
From a fan standpoint, I hope that's the case. I hope we get 5 full rounds of just craziness, man.
What do you think?
That would be great.
I feel like somebody's going to fuck to sleep. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think somebody's going to fuck to sleep. I can't tell you who I think it is right now, but somebody's going to sleep, especially after the last
fight of the night. I'll give you that. It's going to be the fight of the
night.
Here,
you know what? Here, I'll tell you who I'll pick, and this might change by the time the fight gets here, but I'll tell you what I think. I think after that last fight that he just had, I think Gaethje's going to be a lot more of a problem for Poirier than they want to talk about. And even though Dustin's a dog, he don't hit like Gaethje does. And so if he tries to get in another one of them firefights with a guy like Gaethje, not that he can't box and not that he doesn't have power, but he ain't got power like Gaethje's got power. And so I feel like Gaethje might be able to catch Poirier slipping in this one. But we'll see if my issue changes.
My issue is because I'm a fan of both of the guys. I'm a much bigger fan of the Hot Sauce King out here with Dustin Poirier, to be honest with you. But that being said, I mean, I don't know. Looking back at their first fight, which was 3-4 years ago now, I don't know if their skills have transitioned that much, especially in Justin's instance, for him to now be that. Of course, fight's a fight, and things definitely change between situations. But that being said, man, I feel like if we look at skill for skill, Poirier still is the better boxer. I feel like the fight's probably going to take place standing. He works range better. He's great at countering. He's really, really great at being able to step off and hit people from angles. And I feel like that's still, Justin's done a lot better job of implementing his jab and stuff and not being quite as erratic of a striker in there, but I still feel like Poirier is just going to – that's what he's been able to do. If you're not somebody that takes him down and gets him by rear naked choke or guillotine, other than that, he's pretty much good. I feel like on the feet, Dustin Poirier is just – he's almost damn near impossible to deal with. So that's why I'm sticking with Dustin on this one.
I like it.
I'm not mad at it.
It's a toss-up, dude. It really is. It's a toss-up.
Oh, it is 100%. I root for Dustin. I think he's going to win, but it's still a toss-up just because of the fact of how both of them fight. And I disagree with what you were saying with Poirier ain't got power. I mean, he's put a lot of people.
I didn't say that's not what I said. I didn't say he had power. I didn't have power. I said he doesn't have stopping power like Gaethje does. When Gaethje cracks a motherfucker 9 times out of 10, he stops him in his tracks. I'm not saying. Yeah. I'm not saying that Poirier doesn't hit hard, but if you ask me who would I rather hit me out of the two of them, fucking Gaethje's more likely to put your ass to sleep. That's what I'm just saying. Yeah. So I'm just saying, call it what you will. I've gotten punched in the mouth a few times and seen a lot of people get punched in the mouth enough to know that I don't want none of that smoke from Gaethje. But before I let you get out of here, I got to get your thoughts because I know you like watching boxing too. Did you watch Loma versus Haney, and who did you think won?
So, guys, I did not watch the Loma versus Haney fight. I am a big fan, and I'm a huge fan of Lomachenko. So the only thing I can say on that is from all the Twitter feeds I'm seeing and all the Facebook feeds I'm seeing, sound like he got robbed. I can't really tell you if he did, but a lot of people are pissed off about it. I'll tell you that I love Lomachenko, but I can't tell you if he got robbed or not because I didn't even watch the fight. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Good. I just figured you might have what? Go ahead.
Also a fan of Loma as well, but I went into it rooting for U.S. I feel like I've said it here on the show multiple times. The U.S. guys, the U.S. champs especially, they never get enough support. I mean, the whole arena out there was chanting Loma. You know what I mean? And he's fighting basically. He's fighting in his adopted hometown in Vegas, and he's getting. It was the Aljo treatment all over again. To me, I got to root for these American guys. That being said, I still scored it for Loma. At the end,
do you think Loma got screwed or not?
Huh?
Do you think Loma got screwed or not?
Yeah. I thought Loma won. I thought he at least won by 2 rounds.
He was definitely more active in the latter half of the fight. Like in the latter half of the fight, it was noticeably. Well, but I'm saying that's really when he started to pour it on was rounds 8 through 12. And I think the other thing that's been talked about in multiple circles from people like Teddy Atlas and them, a lot of people are saying that Judge Dave Moretti, who's been judging fights for God knows how long, that they want him brought up in front of the commission to explain how he scored round 10 for Haney. So, I mean, it is what it is. You know better than anybody. You never let it go to the judges. It is what it is. But to be honest with you, I think the bigger issue here is that from what I saw, Haney might be in some trouble if he goes in there and fights Tank, if he goes in there and fights Shakur Stevenson, if he goes in there and fights any of them dogs that they got up over there. I feel like it's going to be a tough fight for him. But hey, hats off to Haney on getting the dub with it, though. I can't be mad at the guy.
Yeah, it was a competitive fight in the early rounds, so I don't necessarily. It's not like robbery, what the hell, but I definitely felt like Loma won at the end, not just necessarily because of, to your point, Kyle, the championship rounds were all Loma, and I feel like that was also a clear thing. But what made it feel like Loma won is the rounds that were won were very clearly won, in my opinion, by Loma, where the earlier rounds were very 50-50. You could have went either way. Nobody really took assertion in the fight. Nobody was really, landing more punches or anything like that. It was real split throughout the first early round. So I get it, but Loma definitely should have walked away with them belts, in my opinion.
I'll have to check it out.
You'll have to check it out. I got to check it out. Bobby, we've kept you for a little while. If you got any last words for your opponent or anybody to check out Bellator 297 and where they can check it out and check you out and all that kind of stuff, let them know, bro.
Yeah, for sure. First off, guys, thank you for having me on, let me talk about my fight. MMA, I loved it. I want to shout out some of my sponsors. First off, Phoenix Athletics and Chris Down. They're wonderful, getting me strong, physically good shape. Potter's Tree Service in Hastings, Michigan. The Chad Grizz at the Grizz Outdoor Adventures.
Grizz.
Shout out my gym, Michigan Top Team. Shout out to Tittle Brothers Roofing and Gutters. And let's shout out to Kendra Lust at the Lust Nation, baby.
Yo, I keep seeing her getting into the fight game. She's sponsoring Christine Faria these days too. So hell yeah, shout out to Kendra Lust, man. But I can't wait to see you get back in the cage at Bellator 297. Make sure if you guys are new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You never know what you're going to see. If you're in the city for the Clarissa Shields fight that's coming up, we will be in the building at Little Caesars. So if you're in the building or looking to check out some fights, make sure you're there. Like we talked about earlier, June 24th, Lights Out 11 is going down. Like I said, if you guys are in the area, make sure you're there. And to that Garden Gnome motherfucker, I know who you are. And next time I see you, I'm going to drop kick your Billy Goat ass. Until next week, peace.